Greetings, greetings, peace, 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 greetings. Give honor to Source, to the Most High, the Creator, for making all things possible. To the ancestors known and unknown, for the highest good of all. Clap it up for yourself. Whew. I'm gonna do my best not to get more emotional while I'm on the phone. But I was just sitting here to myself, story time. Sitting here to myself and just in deep reflection. Deep reflection, just like of life, the simple things. Hold on one second. Life, the simple things. And the father wound is making itself prominent, is what I call it. I call it the father wound because it's more so like the importance of the balance between a man being there. One thing that I will say that I cannot ignore is the fact of so much of how much of an absent father affects, not just a child, but even as an adult. So story time, I'm at a library, and how could I get into this? I just want to let people know, like, the importance of you just never know what type of, what kind of, I don't even like using oversaturated words, but what type of, the word representation is coming, but more so the representation of a father and a mother, or just simply embodying your love for yourself, or just being yourself. Literally, when you're not thinking someone's watching, someone always is watching. Someone is watching and also observing. And the reason why integrity and authenticity is so important, because it's not about being perfect. It's more so the importance of being yourself, even when it's not always pleasant to other people. Meaning, like, you let a few words go here and there, or your anger comes out and so forth. Either way, you're still being yourself. And at the end of the day, it's you that you have to look in the mirror to, and so forth. So moving forward, and I say that because it's not just kids that are watching you. It's the world is watching. I had to say that. That was like very important. The world is watching. And then you, again, depending on the perspective of people, their lived experience and where they are, that can be through a wounded lens, or that can be through a lens of being inspired. So that's going to be a balance. So that's one thing I've also learned to accept. For one, I can't control people, how they feel about themselves, because how they feel about themselves is going to be reflected in how they either treat others or how they will most likely treat me. So that's like preparation before, how I need to now be mindful of that, and that's just a gem for whomever. Because I constantly remind people, how you treating yourself. I had to grow with this as well personally. How you treat yourself is a necessity and a priority. It has to be, because you'll know what not to accept and receive from people. There's a balance in what to protect yourself from, and that starts internally. So the father wound, story time. I was at a library a few days ago, and in the quiet room, typically like the study part, there was an elder. Well, I was in there alone, but there was an elder that came in there, and I was just on the computer doing what I was doing, and then he left out because I think he got a phone call, and he was like, "Oh, I'm apologizing." I'm like, "No, it's fine," because in there, you're not supposed to have any, audio or anything playing, and I kind of wonder. At first, I was like, okay, good. I'm back with myself now. I get to be with myself. So, but then he returns probably 10 minutes later, and somehow we got into the discussion about it was pretty much relating to what I was already experiencing, or had made a video during his prior to him departing. I had made a video speaking about like burdens, like burdensome, overwhelm and carrying things that we feel that we have the control or the responsibility of letting burdens go, like, or letting go of things. And that same day before, prior to me going to the library, I had a book bag, the strap, because I put a water bottle in there, and the water bottle is pretty big. It's actually the one that's behind the phone, but if I probably fill it up, it's probably about 3 pounds, 4 pounds. I want to say that, with the water. And so I goes to pick up the strap and it rips. So the video was talking about that. Like, now I have one strap and I have to just carry it like this. It's okay, I'm gonna replace it. But it's more so, it was relating to the burdens, like how we carry things. And then sometimes we carry things that are not ours. Or sometimes we have to realize like it's the response in how and what is burdening us. So with that, the awareness around that also is the connection to um him talking about, because he was reading a newspaper, and somehow we got into discussion. He was like, man, I don't even know why I read this stuff, because some things I look at it and it's just so depressing. Because he was definitely probably had to be in his, I want to say 60s, 70s. And basically it was just relatable to where, again, taking on things or looking at stuff, dissecting it, and you don't have to, read into it, because it does and can have an effect on your life. And that goes for like conversations, what we entertain, what we look at. And we just start talking about things like that as such. And somehow we got into um, his father. He said, yeah, my father's like 91, I think. Yeah, no, not, yeah, 91. Because he said his wife, well, his his mother was 90, but the father thing is what blew my mind, because it became like a great discussion. And I was just like, yeah, I told myself that I'm gonna be very healthy, when it comes to, around that age as well. Because he said, yeah, my dad's still mowing the grass and doing things and being very active. And it was so hilarious because he was talking about how his dad is still doing these things. And how I talk about that delayed, what is it? Delayed processing or delayed grief. That's what I'm gonna get into. But he was talking all these great things. Like I said, I don't know the backstory to him and his father relationship, but it was still the fact of, you can tell that there was this bond there. And how he even went into depth about how his dad inherited some land during a wedding from his dad. And he was saying how it was only like the land that he inherited was like 250, 300 feet away. The guy I spoke to, his grandfather gave it to his dad. So I'm sitting here like, and they've been there most of their life. He said they built the house, his mom, his dad built the house, and he was a contractor. The grandfather was, and then they built the house to where they were there like 70 years. So it's like they've been there most of their lives. And I was like, whoa, like, how do people do that? And, it was amazing just to hear him, talk about his dad and his connection, and seeing the mom and dad be together and so forth. And what's so, I would say, the duality of it is like, what's so uncomfortable from it is that knowing that the absence of a father, and having to remind myself that there's no void to fill. Um, and that, encourages me to say or to be more of the father for myself and show up for the little boy inside of me. Because just that conversation alone, it shifted his perspective. He was like, "Man, it was just great talking to you," and I and I just want to let people know you just never know what type of representation you are to people when you just talking to an elder or talking to someone who has lived experiences or different lived experiences, but just more so like they still hold a fatherly energy. Even if they don't have kids, we all hold a father and mother energy, a feminine and masculine energy that operates from, um they're one and the same, but they also it's like a yin and yang aspect. So um just listening to him and seeing how the mother and father was together that long for that duration, what they built and so forth. It's inspiring. It's inspiring. And then outside of just who you're with, whether you're with someone or not, it's the inspiration around not just legacy, but the importance of the persistence. And, he even got emotional trying to tell the story because you could just tell he went into a little boy, as he told his story. And for those who did not have a father, whatever, the circumstances may have been, just know that there are people such as myself and other people out there. And it's not so much of filling a void, is that the divine will show whether you have kids or through your day-to-day life that the divine will use vessels. Source will use vessels to remind you, and sometimes it's through our own stubbornness and because we don't know or have been given a blueprint or guide, more so I'll say guide, to even in our exchanges with humans and what day to day and so forth, when they're not being human or know how to be human or know how to be human beings, they don't know the being part. But that's what the reminder is where I'm at with myself, is to remind myself to navigate through that uncomfortability of a father not being there, but still having a father now, or the man that, created me, helped support, create me, and navigate through the word resentment comes up. Through the lessons that I felt like I should have learned, and that's that father wound or that aspect of my life now that is allowing me to feel, process, and grieve. Just that exchange with that man was just so much of like, I wish I had that. And had to me, it's almost like past tense, or even like, it's okay to say, oh, I wish I had that. But then I tell myself I won't deprive myself of, I do have that. And it may look different, but I realized with my son, what's happening with him and I, like early today in the rising, it's just, I feel like the divine just uses the kids so well to where they know, it's like they come and they remind you of a love that you felt like you did not receive. And they trigger, like I said, the uncomfortable parts about it is like they come and it's like they don't have a turn off button. And it reminds us of us, like we don't have one as well. We just I recognize that we've been so more turned off by the world and external things and focusing on like how much how bad could a person be. Like when you look at the world, it's like how violent, how disruptive, how dysfunctioning. Like when you see the state, like it's evolving slowly, but progressing slowly. But you have to see the shit that has been normalized. And for me, it's like coming out of that and going through. my values has completely changed. It's just to have that exchange with that man is just the divine operating through him. Like, you still can build and have a healthy dialogue with men, even if you don't have it with your father. You still can build and be a bridge. I'm showing you that some of you, that your children are a bridge from that place of hate to love again, to love yourself. My daughter being first showed me a deep emotional wound tied to my mother, meaning like the hate that she gave, the hate that she, whatever it is that was plaguing her internally, was rotting inside. She had to be the one to uproot it, heal it, face it, acknowledge it, and replant herself, or to be able to, do these things internally without looking for external validation. But some people never get through it, or some people never have the courage. It's not to say they're not capable, but I had to remind myself, like, you cannot overlook the fact of this is what's going on with this individual. This is their reality. It doesn't have to be mine. So that makes me relate to not just the mother wound, but the father wound with my dad. It's like now that bridge as well, from that apps being, from that him being absent again, that abandonment wound that most don't see, that most men and or women deal with. So just not being there has a lot to do with the fact of a part of you is missing a part of the manual or the guide that you were supposed to have. So now you're left with a responsibility, or more so having to do these things and put in extra effort. And so this is where, when you hear myself or others reference the ancestors for the good of all, or for the ancestors who, see the importance of putting in the effort and so forth, we're going to support you, but to an extent. And this is more so like those who know a deeper awareness around it spiritually and so forth, and for the higher aspect of the bigger picture. Because again, in their inability, whether it's a mother or father or somebody, to orchestrate these things, or do it for some of them, they did it in the best way they knew how. But what they did not do is realize, or come to the realization, I'm just going to assume, is not see the bigger picture on how this affects everyone involved. Meaning, like, in it happening with your absence, it happens and affects me alongside of my son and everyone connected to me. So now I'm the burden aspect, left with this burden or baggage, to where I have to realize, like, this is overwhelming, that I was supposed to have something I wish I had. But if I keep focusing on what I wish I could have had and so forth, I'll miss being in the present. Because when something missing, like, how people say, oh, I miss this person. I realize now that there are things that are present energetically. There are things that are present right now. You have to be more present than the fact of what could have been or should have been and so forth. So I told myself, like, no, I have to acknowledge and be grateful for what is being brought before me, looking forward to that. So even in that exchange, it was still great. But that's why I say people don't know, after a certain conversation, after a relationship, after a connection and so forth, the prolonged grief that comes along with that, of just assuming everything is all right when everything is not all right. I've had to have this conversation with my dad. Everything is not all right. I don't even know how to, like, build, because it's the reason why, like, a lot of us can be in that place. Like, I don't even know how to build, bro, with you, because that was your role. That was your role in teaching me or showing me as a father or as a man, like, how it is to structure your life, or give you whatever said tools, there's things a father can teach a man or show a little boy, to where he knows how to deal with other men, or he knows it still know how to deal with other women. So a lot of that absence leaves you with almost like scribble scrabble. Like, this is your blueprint. You're like, glasses and like, what the fuck is this? You're in disbelief. But this is where in disbelief, you have to believe more than ever. And I feel like you have to be some type of a fucking superhuman, or like, this is for all of you that grew up with this almost like void that you try to feel, of just trying to be this superhuman or supernatural aspect, or just some shit that comes out of a comic book. Some like, you have to, like, I don't care what nobody say. When I look at what I was given, and to be able to be so, to come to this state of being, to be so peaceful or grateful, just for the fact of what I just know now, but not know everything, but just the awareness around how I can say like, whoa, I've accepted, like, if something happens to me, I can say I've done what I needed to do. Now, if it's more of asked to me, obviously I'll still, the divine be like, hey, you still got to get up. It's still shit to do. But it's just that acceptance of my own death is what y'all call it. And I know that may sound wild, but I relate it to other people, or I know people who fear it. And I feel like a lot of their fears are related to things that are unfulfilled, or things that they're chasing or trying to assume that they have to accomplish while in the body. And that's the thing I realized, like, that was so almost like superhuman to me, or supernatural, is to where I don't depend on none of this shit to make me happy. So when I relate that to the father wound, I feel like it's a superpower to be able to conjure up, or just navigate through the feeling of knowing that I didn't have this, but in reality, I have it now. And that's the beauty of my son. Like I said, in the rising, he came, his mom knocked on the door and was like, hey, he wants to come in here. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's like these kids, or the way the divine operates through things, even through people's ignorance, even through people's anger, even through whatever it is they got going on. If you are able to counter anything that what someone has said and so forth. Like, for instance, before I get to my son, I've had men in my life who could have chose to be more so of an influence, or an inspiration in a better way, in a more kind, or more, let's say, a better approach. And now I'm at a place, even in their ignorance, I realize it's something internal that has nothing to do with me. So now in that acceptance, I realize, like, that doesn't stop me from going. Just because my father wasn't there, and there was a man there that was just abusive to my mother, and I realized his insecurity projected onto me, he was abusive to me, doesn't mean, for one, I have to repeat it, and doesn't mean that I have to be anything like them. That takes a lot of courage to not be like someone else and follow a trend. That takes a lot of courage to even be a man and a father, to acknowledge that within yourself, in your being yourself, you will not want your child to be like any other man or any other child. You will encourage them to be themselves, because you know how much, not pride, but how beautiful, how like, the euphoria that comes from that shit of just, I can show up. I didn't like this shirt today. You know what? Let me cut it. Let me just be myself. Everybody want to wear, well, some people wear a big chain. Well, I'm going to wear a chain that reflects me. Some may say it's a woman or whatever it is. So what? I call it androgynous. You got the crescent moon, then you got a star. Because, bitch, that's who I am. So, again, going back to my son, he comes and his mama knocks and says, hey, he wants to come in here. He got up early. And he came in there and he just laid down with me. He laid down. You know, it's so cute to see the diaper. And he just lays down, and it's almost shocking because I see it from so many different perspectives. I naturally pick up on the fact of, because this is just like once y'all realize, like, life will have you seeing beyond one dimensional aspect, beyond the 3D, beyond the spiritual shit is like 4D. If you want to get into the dimensions of shit like that, or just beyond the fact of it's just about you. In the recovery or recalibration, your children are like mirrors, literally. They're so connected to the source that they're not even really seen as human beings yet. I don't know if a lot of y'all know that. They are so pure or have so much of a heightened awareness or vibration that they're more connected to, let's say, an emotional body or the spiritual aspect of things rather than even concerned about this. This is why they're so fucking fearless, because they come from something that is fearless. Source is fearless. Y'all call it God or whatever you want to subscribe to. It's not a God of fear, regardless. Gods or whatever you want to call it, whatever people subscribe to, these are energies, architects that are fearless. This is why some of your children hold energy in certain things where those who know, who are in tune spiritually, when we reference certain pantheons or children of Oya and all this other stuff, and they embody that. No matter how much people want you to subscribe to something else, I know what I embody. I know what's been shown to me about myself and my kids. I told y'all before, there are people, again, who have, before they were programmed with religion, before they were given all these other things, and this is why gradually some of y'all come to recover those fragmentations of things that were a part of your spiritual practice before your incarnation here. Before your mother told you and your father told you, whether you were a preacher's daughter or son or whatever it is, there are things beyond the veil that are connected to you that in divine timing that will connect to you. So again, my son, I know who he is. So there's a responsibility. I don't know everything about him because gradually this is what progresses. I know things about my daughter. She shows me through her day-to-day the shit that she paints, the stuff that she talks about. She comes in there and say some shit out the wall, and I'll be like, what? Huh? Because in your connection and reconnected to your gifts and so forth, you'll realize that your kids are just fucking this gifted. And this is why I tell y'all all the time, that's why a lot of people are going through karma, like such as my mom and dad, like their lessons. I told you my mom knew shit about me. My dad knew stuff about me. It's the fact of, like I told you, my dad's last name is German. So let me look into this, even though you didn't tell me about it. Learning stuff about your ancestry. Because then you can't call me black. So then I see why you tried, the powers that used to be, or all this shit was so orchestrated to keep our birthrights from us. To keep so many things, but now that the veil is lifted and thin, being lifted, this is the awareness. Because you start to embody and live it out. Then you start to recognize what you are a part of, and you are a continuance of that shit. There's fearlessness that come with that. Why do I need to be afraid of transition or death? When I know that my children that don't belong to me will continue something because I'm aware of the gifts and certain things that were restored in me. So therefore, they are restoration as well. They'll recycle, recalibrate, not loop through the shit that the men that before me came, or so forth. They won't loop through that. There's going to be protection. They're going to, yes, they will recycle the very things that I planted seeds within them. That's vital. So that's the beauty of, again, like I said, in my dad inability not to be there or make more conscious effort, I have no excuse not to. So my son coming in there and laying with me, it was just like, the divine said, I'm going to show you through your son or through people in your life, even through their ignorance. Because when I start seeing these people as kids, it's some type of something that they didn't receive. And sometimes you realize you are the fucking beacon of light to bridge from, imagine someone trying to walk across a bridge that's dark. No lighting around. This is the symbolism of them carrying the lantern. There's certain people who have not just a light, it's a flame. There's certain people around them that actually support in making sure that flame doesn't go out. So y'all got to realize some people in your life, they were actually supposed to make sure your flame was never to go out. And in their inability to support, they're going to be the very ones, whether through their jealousy or envy, whatever it is through their life that they have become consumed by, they're going to be seeking out that same light. Or for some of y'all don't realize in your lineage and certain people, they choose to do this. And notice how there's a little bit of light. I love this analogy. And every now and then they'll peek in to see if you still got that flame, to see if that flame is still lit. Sometimes they'll do this, have some water or try to douse it out by not supporting or by doing things to feel like, oh, that flame ain't not going to burn, because that's what they don't realize on a deeper level. They think about this shit tangibly. Even the ones who are in tune spiritually, knowing what they're doing, you cannot put out the soul. There's a flame that you cannot touch. This is the shit that's unforbidden. There's something within people that are unforbidden. There's some people in your life, or some of y'all, that they know that when they say touch not my anointed, it's more so that's a saying of that's forbidden. That person's individual purpose and mission, whatever it is, it's forbidden to speak on them or touch them or do certain things to bring harm to their path because it is bigger than you. They know that. For some of y'all had to come into awareness that you didn't know because you were just living because of the guidance that you didn't receive. That same flame that some people knew you had, and they took so much effort to try to put it out. Your flame, at a point in time, you were in this little town. Now this flame is going to be seen for the world, for the universes, for the universities, for all. Even just by being yourself. So with that, again, there's people that had a responsibility to make sure that your flame will never burn out. Because even when you ever saw like the, like you use a lantern, those old ones to where you had to put the fuel back in there and so forth. And you see how it like gets to this small. I've seen it go to like even a little blue. And all of a sudden that's a representation of some of our lives. Where we're called to rest, we're called to do something different all of a sudden. Just when people thought that your flame was going to burn out, then boom. Like you put lighter fluid on something and you put too much of it and that shit burn the hairs off your arms and everything. That's the beauty of, times when we can be in our lives. That's how I felt like what a mother and father wound, the internal wounds that people don't see. These things were supposed to destroy you. There's people in your life that were supposed to take you out simply because of either what they came with, whether in the unseen or not. It was things that were supposed to come that came with them that was supposed to take you out. And somehow, some way, there was something, whether unseen or not, that knew that it was something familiar about you. Oh, I know that flame. I know that. And don't even realize in that person's coming with whatever fire, whatever it is that was supposed to douse you or whatever, it literally gave you a spark. Or to counter that shit, it literally was just fuel. They didn't know that. They just assumed like, oh, I'm going to make sure that I'm a breadcrumb. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to come and manipulate, throw some magic, do whatever I can to disrupt, delay, or whatever. And sometimes come with the intentions of just simply getting them up out of here. And not realizing that certain people are unforbidden. When I say untouchable, unforbidden, or even like touch not my anointed, people literally just assume that. Again, in their peeking in, they didn't think, they forget that the sun rises, but also sets. So the funny thing about all of this is that even when they think that they won't be in darkness for periods of time, there comes a season where the sun doesn't always do the same thing. So even when they think that they can amp it up and do more stuff, eventually the sun changes. It transits it different. So in their persistence or consistency of trying to do the same thing, something will always be revealed. And that's the beauty of the moon. Sun shines light for everything to be seen, but the moon also still represents, it has its illumination period. It has its shadow periods. It has periods where even when people assume that they're getting away with something, no, the moon, they work hand in hand. So my son coming in there, laying with me and stuff like that, it was so beautiful because I'm laying there and he just comes and goes back to rest, before he leaves. And it was like a reminder of like, and it's not looking for anything. It's just more so like he knows. It's similar to my daughter. Like she knows. There's times where he would be with his mom, but she just comes in there and say, "Daddy, I love you," or just some simple gesture, and it just like it ignites me. It reignites me again, or it gives me a spark. So what I'm saying is the restoration of the balances of these scales, when it comes to similarly to like a mother wound, I see the significance in my daughter. And not looking for externally, but it's more so of that's a manifestation of what was internal. So I cannot run from it regardless, because she mirrors those very things back that I realized like is to remind me how to mother myself, how to love myself, how to show up for myself, how to nurture myself, so I can reciprocate that. Because if I choose to hold on to what my dad externally didn't give, if I don't see the importance of countering that and realize like, okay, I can give this to myself. He was never supposed to give it to me, because that's the thing about how human nature is. People don't have to. They don't have to. It has to be innately within them, and they have to, through their free will, choose to. And so with that now, the beauty of all of this is like you see the innocence in kids or just their authenticity. Even when they go through emotions, they don't have to respond the way you want to. They don't have to do anything. It's just naturally that they try to find a balance and cope with things no differently than us. So it's things that I realized, like in him coming in there, laying with me, simple things. It's a reminder, like to me, like I am loved and lovable, because the reason I say that is through that interaction and that bond, it reminds me to come home to myself, but also realize, like, notice through that uncomfortability, because it's, again, I'm not even gonna hold you, it's much more different than with my daughter, because she's showing me a side of me that I can no longer hide. So, like, it's not just who she is, it's more so of her. It's almost like an encouraging me to rise in to rise to where she is on a certain vibration, if that makes sense. Like, or to embrace more of your emotions with her being so expressive, or by her, what I've gradually learned is how much I cannot control it. And I've said this before, how much, like, I knew that minds were controlled when I was young. Because, when you have people that grew up in dysfunction or have a dysregulated nervous system, typically they're more reactive rather than knowing how to respond, knowing how to not take things personally. I grew up with people that took everything personally. No matter what you said back, talking back, I'm going to whoop your ass, I'm going to do this, or yelling and screaming. And I did go through things that with my daughter, but I start to realize, like, I used to, like, later process, like, why did I do that? Where did I learn this from? And that's why I say sometimes we inherit things or pick up on things and not realize unconsciously what we're doing. And that's the beauty of going through from what has been programmed subconsciously to the conscious of what you're doing. And then giving yourself grace for unconsciously patterns that you don't even realize has affected you and everyone involved. That's the thing about patience with yourself that you had to learn. You realize how people were impatient when you were younger. Now you have to be called to be more patient with yourself. I've had to be more patient with myself to recognize what type of season I'm in. The people that are with me, if they're patient enough, it's the reward in that as well, because my elder was telling me, like, how patient people have to be with me, because of the fact that I know personally no one knows the depths what I have went through with women. And it's not blaming no one. It's just no one knows the depths. Like, I don't know the depths of a lot of what women have went through with men. So I can't tell you how to navigate, or more so, like, I don't know the depths of the prolonged grief. And not just the depths. I don't know. There's not a time, there's not a duration on how you're supposed to get through that. Some of that shit takes years. Healing is a lifelong journey. Just like I thought I had it figured out. Talking to that man made me think about, dang, I didn't even get this. But now I realize, like, I have it. That and more. Because my son, he comes in there and all these things that are happening, it gives me the opportunity now not to hold on to what I did not have. Because if I do, it'll become burdensome. It'll become something unseen that my kids and whomever involved with me pick up on. Even if they don't see it physically, it's still being carried internal. So it's like this internal wound or baggage that eventually will affect them. It'll affect them in how I express myself, through my frustration, through the fact of, it's just the fact of trying to hold on to something. When you look at water, and our body's being made up of water, and memory, how it holds memory, then it goes back to the fact of how people hold on to things longer than others. But that frozen in time almost is like that memory that they're holding on to is like an ice cube. They're trying to hold on to something, and they're in this frozen or freeze state, rather than allowing it to melt away, allowing it to evaporate, allowing it to just dissolve. That doesn't mean it goes away, but it still reminds you, like, because it makes me think about precipitation, or what do they call that? How water goes up and it comes back down. So does water ever really go away? It's like, does memories really ever go away? When you look at, like, how water holds memory. So it makes me think about things ancestrally, like when it comes to our mothers and great grandmothers and so forth, how we pick up on things generationally, or sometimes things we don't even can make sense of. But that's the awareness again of, I feel like for a lot of people, when it comes to burdens, their burdens are like ice. They're frozen in time at a specific moment in their life, and they don't allow it to melt away. They don't allow it to flow again. So they become stuck and stagnant in this state of being. So for me, I told myself, no, this is why I create my videos. Instead of being stuck on what could have happened or should have happened with someone, I have to let that shit flow through my speaking. I have to let it go. I have to, and a part of that is like allowing people through karma as I navigate through things to focus more on dharma, meaning like the dharma aspect is more so what I'm experiencing with my son, with my children, with whomever's in my life in a more blissful, harmonious way. Now, the karma still comes in. Have I learned a lesson of what not to hold on to? The karma still comes in where things playing out karmically, to where the things that are unresolved, unprocessed, whether that be what I inherited generationally or ancestrally from my dad and his dad and so forth, because he told me things about, his upbringing and so forth. So I am not ashamed and guilt or feel shame and guilt around. There's something like on my mom and dad's side. My mom's side, there's something I know now. This is vital because, bro, once you start to pay attention, you'll realize the vices, the spiritual warfare, the shit that you're overcoming, the stuff that you're day-to-day fighting, not so much against, but fighting through. From my mother's side, I recognize there's something very deep sexually, spiritually, and so forth. Very things, not just incessive, but there was like definitely like an entity attachment when it comes to that I had to overcome sexually, and it was definitely dealing with lust, perversion, people that what do you call it, predatorial, just that spirit of things like that. My dad, well, they're both similar, but my dad, I recognize what he told me, what he went through as a child was more so of, again, the uncontrollable emotion, the impulsivity, if that's a word, impulsiveness, or just the fact of, a lot of anger. I feel like a lot of resentment. Because when you see the pattern, when I met my uncle and my dad when I was young, I can now see how a lot of what they grew up in was very similar to me. Even though my dad wasn't present, the energy was still present in the guy that my mom dated. But I realized like a lot of what my mom was trying to make my dad to be had a lot to do with whatever unresolved with her. Because that's the thing about what a father wound will do if you don't acknowledge it. You will project this onto a man and try to mold him. Like, this shit is wild. Like, I've seen women in provoking trying to mold a man into being abusive when he can be the most gentle, stable man emotionally and so forth. Not to say he don't have some kinks or whatever it is going on, but it's just not him to the core. And even through experiences with me having a mother wound, you will unconsciously try to shape and mold someone into that mother wound. That shit's wild. But it's a psychological thing. You will want to make someone's life struggle when they don't have to, because that's all you know. You will want to, you don't even realize you're consciously doing this shit. People have a pattern, because it's learned behavior pattern where, you know how they say you can take someone out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of them. Yes, but at the same time, it's still learned behavior pattern. Because in my transition, I am very much still that little boy that grew up in the trenches and so forth. At the same moment, that's the balance of discipline. You can bring anybody out of somewhere. I see it every day with little kids. I don't have moments with little kids talking shit and rah, 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 rah. Then I got to remind myself, discipline. Because we can take it there. At the same moment, I'm sitting here like, these are not just kids, but I can see the deeper, the beyond the veil, that you're dealing with something spiritually that your father probably had. And most of the time, You're hurting. There's something internally. So your way of thinking you want to bond with me is naturally through trauma. You want to talk ish. You want to do all this other stuff. And you think being combative is how you bond. Now, I'm going to let you know from a place of integrity and authenticity. I know how it is to be there, bro. But at the same moment, you don't want to take it there. At the same moment, I'm going to also still let you know you just need a hug. You ain't been loved. Your daddy ain't there. And most of the time, the reaction will be that spirit that wants them to stay in that combative or aggressive aspect rather than being embraced. That's why certain things that you realize how love can overcome a lot of things, the energy, the vibration, and being authentic. Because I'm going to let you know from the yin and yang aspect. I ain't finna give you this all people pleasing. No, I'm not here to please your ego. I'm here to let you know that I'm going to shatter your illusion of thinking just because, this ain't that. And so, and that's the beauty again of the fact of how a lot of what has transpired is like, think about the world, how so many things are collapsing. When you look at people who have self-hatred, no matter their skin color, but the people who you actually want me to believe that I have to care that you hate me, that's an internal thing. You want to go through life like that? That's fine. Just remember that the seeds that you sow eventually will catch up with your ass. You're going to keep receiving that harvest, and then you're going to reach somebody in your life that ain't going for that shit. Mink, mink, mink. And sometimes it ain't just physical. You're going to get a spiritual ass whooping first, and it's going to play out into the physical. So that goes for anybody. That's like them kids or whomever it is. Y'all don't realize what people have navigated through spiritually. That's the thing about internal growth. Now, had I not seen the bigger picture, because I talked about this probably a couple cycles ago, because my kids were there, I had to see the bigger picture. But I also had to be authentic to where you're not going to threaten me and this and that, no matter what your age is and so forth. And my kids is right there watching. They calm because I know that they're protected. And in that moment, I'm supposed to be a guardian. No matter what age these kids are, especially talking about they'll unalive me, get to a point over something. So I'm like, you know what? For one, I know they're not going to do it. And I got to be very mindful because of the bigger picture. So for one, I have to recognize this is something beyond me. This is something spiritual. I have to stay calm, but at the same moment, you got to stand your ground no matter who it is. So moving forward, again, a lot of things that I realize I'm in a position of is realizing how beautiful it is to go from that wounded femininity or masculinity as well, see it play out to where I no longer have to live a life like that. Because you can see through the youth where their life is going. They'll have to go through lessons. I be telling them that all the time. I just laugh. At them because I recognize, for one, they're still in emotions. They still in a place where they don't have no discipline. So it's only so much you can say or do to where the bigger picture will play out. It's not much you really can say or do. You can plant seeds, and then again, later on down the years, people will remember. Oh, I remember. Hey, I remember you said that to me. I remember you was that guy. Da 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 da. That's if they choose to learn something from the exchange and so forth. I had to go through that. But moving forward, the beauty and the bigger picture from all this is what I want to leave y'all with is not just cherish the simple things, but moving the moment we're in right now is so amazing because you have the opportunity to do something completely different. That takes, like, with these energies right now transiting Aries, I realize, like, my dad's an Aries. So a lot of what him not doing is still a part of my initiation to be who I am. A lot of what people did not do And more so, the energy that they were at was just a part of your initiation on who you're becoming. Not just for you, though. Because, see, that's why you can have people who are in the communities or local and so forth, wherever they are, and have so much of an impact. Oh, and I got to say this, too. The rise of the divine feminine and masculine energies together and so forth is also a rise of the divine mother and father. The divine mother is initiating the father, or the woundedness in the divine mother, the distorted mother, it also initiates divine feminine, divine mother and divine father energy for a lot of us. And that means just bringing a more holistic approach to things. Like when you see the influence that, I'm telling you, I see this all the time where I realize like the responsibility and not just what I'm doing, but the bigger picture. When you see, I tell you all the time, it's funny that I mentioned the father wound. When I see the influence that a lot of men, whether through their music, through their arts, through their sports, whatever it is, when I notice the influence that they had, divine said, I want you to pay attention. Because this is what you're not doing. This is what you're not going to do. Because as their empire begins to dissolve and crumble because of the elevation in consciousness, or just simply because of the shift that's going to happen with the mothers. And then when it happens with the mothers begin to teach the kids. So the kids are also here to realize, to see the importance who walks or who holds that frequency of authenticity, love. Who really cares about us? Who really cares about themselves? Who really values us? And why I say this is because y'all going to recognize collectively what the mother wound and father wound is, or the distorted mother that has enabled a distorted father. Meaning, like, it doesn't matter celebrity status. It doesn't matter who these people are. They are a representation of the old world narrative when it comes to the distortion of both mother and father energy. The wounded masculinity playing out through all of them self-righteously. The greed, the gluttony, all these different things that are playing out that's going to plague people and their generation and their lineage. And just like I told you how this light is, they are the same people like this in the dark, in the shadows, and don't realize eventually as that sun comes up, when they want to just peek out like this, it has to set. And then when certain seasons, when the sun doesn't come out like it used to, it's going to be very prominent who has done what we call shadow work, healed and so forth, or done certain things to realize when they come out, when the sun shines again, or spring, or certain point, like certain seasons where the sun is more prominent, it's going to illuminate everything that can no longer be hidden. This is why it's so important what the fuck you have been doing in seasons before. Divine don't care who it is. Because the bigger picture is knowing that everything is shifting. So when you see people, I told you, doing these initiations of the Aries and Saturn and so forth, you're going to have people either accumulating more karmic debt, putting their selves, just as this is beautiful, because just as any generation, when you come to evolve, you come to initiate and progress your lineage. That means you can still do the same shit that will create more karmic debt for your lineage for generations to come. Or you're going to realize, like, it's a part of you to no longer be associated and a part of this shit simply because it's not progressing, not only me, healing me and so forth, but I realize the bigger picture that it's going to have an effect on my generations to come. So when I talk about shadow work, healing, and facing certain shit, this is preparation for your generations to come to progress in a world that's shifting collectively and individually. To whom is given, much is required. No one's exempt from this shit. And these transits that's coming up, oh my gosh, we're on the end with what is it? By the 25th, you got Uranus going into Gemini. Yo, all these transits that are happening, being in line with the stars and so forth, is so amazing because, and again, even if I have to say this because I'm getting this, even if people on certain levels that are in tune with the stars that have been doing it, they didn't want you to know the importance of it, they can still be doing with the intention of trying to gain more shit, to abuse more of their power, and they don't realize we're not in that age anymore. You're only just going to show yourself to who you've been, to who you be, or what you're connected to. And it ain't source. It's not source. It's not the most high. And what's gonna be prominent is you're gonna see what people value. Is it for the betterment of all involved, or is it just for them and their lineage? Abundance and whatever you want to call this, riches. I had to walk the other day and I see men, I just want to say they, I don't even like using terms that describe people, like, because some people don't go by those terms, because people don't subscribe to Hispanic and Mexican, and people don't subscribe to that shit, because I respect myself and not even telling people, like, what are you, or calling them that. I just recognize the energy that I'm supposed to see where I'm at, to see how divided people are. And the divine said, I want you to say this on the video. If y'all don't realize that in Pluto and Aquarius energy, how much shit is dissolving, literally ripping the fucking floor plan from the hands of people who abuse their power when it came to just creating floor plans just for them and certain people. Meaning, like, you remember how we used to grow up and say, man, look at the Migos, bro. Look at what we used to say, like, because at that time where I grew up at, it was just darker people. But the Mexicans that came in when we were young, how we used to see them in a house together, and people don't know this shit happens in other countries. This happens in California. You got people grow up together, and because of the way how the housing is, or the livelihood, or just how hot shit is, they live together all the way to they adults. Like, I didn't even realize that shit. But how they just grow up and support each other along the way and so forth. I mean, they still do it, even to a fact of when it's all similar. Y'all just don't travel and go nowhere. But it's the fact of, I notice how I'm supposed to experience, like, how they're so for each other and don't even speak to, like, a man who's indigenous to this land. Like, don't even acknowledge, knowing that whether they can speak English or not, shit, a hey, or, and it's not all, but it was just, the divine said, I want you to walk and observe how self-righteous, self-centered, and divided people really are amongst themselves. And these transits are going to reveal how much, when money's involved, because how they viewed money and how they don't connect it to the matriarchal or mother energy or the feminine archetype, how much that has been distorted to where they're going to fight amongst it. They're going to fight amongst themselves. All of this was orchestrated, and all of this plays into the mother wound and the father wound. A lot of these things are to reveal how unease, or how uncomfortable they really are, but they're trying to survive. And in the way that they're doing it, it's a survival instinct to where I'm just going to support my own. And y'all don't realize, like I told you, in the dawning of this new age, is that masterpiece I did where you see all those people of different creeds and colors, is that it's almost like a punishment from the divine mother coming in to remove or to protect her children who have honored the importance of acknowledging the feminine archetype, the distorted mother, and to denounce that distortion, to honor what it really is to be connected to that source or that divine mother energy, and to acknowledge these very things that has kept us feeling like we're apart or separate. So there we are going to progress. Those who will suffer, just as you see how people have assumed that certain people are supposed to suffer. And again, all of that was an accumulation of what's to come right now. This is why I don't have fear. This is why I could care less about what the fuck these distractions are going on and anything to keep people distracted from really being at peace and getting to know themselves. Man, that shit don't bother me. Because to be able to see the bigger picture is to be able to see the interconnectedness, the interdependence, and realize like there are others on that frequency, that vibration, or more so that are doing the work, inner work, and so forth to align that will have said resources. And another thing is that these are going to be people that some will have their awakening. Like I said, they can choose through their free will to stay in the dark or actually see the people who actually have something that they're seeking. And it's not about money, it's the spiritual currency. And in that, they will bring currency, whether that's tangible or they will bring something intangible that will just be a puzzle piece. All of this shit is puzzle pieces. What you have to pay attention to now is look at how people are trying to force shit to make it seem like it go together. It don't. And this is why I tell you, people's karma is to suffer. It's just like a child that has to learn lessons. You're just going through stuff where you just learning your lessons. You're just going through things where you just like, it's not much you can do. You have to allow people to go through their own suffering because of their own ignorance, because they don't choose to be in alignment. They choose to just go off what some other person is saying, or choose to be more focused on gaining things more materially. And I told you these transits, bro, it's almost preparation, because less is going to be more. And however you perceive that is completely different. This is why a lot of us right now, these shifts are for you to go through the fact of like, can I see myself being responsible with all of this? Can I see myself? And that's again the burden of lighten your load. That's also significant to mother and father, mother and father wound. The significance of, do I need to carry this? Meaning like, I don't have to drag them along. Because I feel like, oh, they have to be a part. No, they don't. They still are a part of things energetically, spiritually speaking. But if you have a greater mission or something bigger, that means your initiation is to create, because you were given a blueprint or a guide that most people are unaware of, that you, by being in tune and mother and father yourself, you're giving something from a higher awareness or a higher power. And it won't make sense to nobody else but you. And in that, they don't have to accept or believe. They will come into what they're coming to in divine timing and so forth. Some of them, it's too late. And for some of them, they will continue to live their life how they know best. And won't even see the suffering. And that's just how people live in survival and so forth. So for me, somebody could look at my life and think I'm suffering and I'm living in survival. But that's not for me to prove and convince. Because I know what I can create that is for longevity. I know that what I'm doing is bigger than me. I know the value in this. It's like an archive. Like a lot of this stuff, I know the bigger picture to the generations after this, apps or certain shit is going to be created to where they can be able to see stuff and be able to be inspired. See, some things we just assume that certain men or certain people in your life are supposed to come and build or do some things. Is this not building? Especially the world is transitioning into a digital aspect. That means a lot of things that people just assume that I'm supposed, like some people supposed to assume that you're supposed to get things tangibly through currency rather than the digital aspect, things that have come more swiftly. The age, the dawning of a new age in Aquarius, that's information. And so with that, and it's how information goes out, leaks out, and so forth. So even with that, it's looking forward to the fact of like, whoa, how, people say you go viral or this can happen. And it's just the influx or the inspiration, whether people choose to be inspired or not, but it's just the fact of like, I know the intention behind it. So I don't look for the acceptance. And that was something I had to navigate through, even knowing that my dad was facing a mother wound because of the things that happened with his mother before he departed. And I realized like, wow, that's something he's holding on to. And there's just a lot of things where I realized you have to leave people where they at, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They still have things that they have to get through. It's not my burden to carry that. And that goes for everybody. I'm getting confirmation of people, even when I say that shit, because it's just for me to get, like, I've had to do that so much so with a lot of people. You have to leave them where they at mentally, emotionally, physically. Because what you'll end up doing unconsciously, if you're not aware, is carrying you're in their programming to become your subconscious, but you'll end up carrying their shit energetically. And that could mean with partnership, relationships, business, and so forth. You don't realize how much it'll cause you. You ever feel like, the stress and all this other stuff? It's because sometimes you don't realize it's not just a physical thing, it's energetic. And a lot of us are not in that season. This is why certain seasons are for you to be alone, to be with yourself. Certain seasons are for you to just, and then in that, you'll know how to navigate. That's the thing I was telling about burdens. It's like, it's how you approach it now. Rather than like a year or two ago, I would react differently with the fact of people not doing things. And I realized like, that's their shit to face. That's their karma. That's certain things. It's a beautiful space to be in this, to be enlightened by this, because you realize I do not have to respond to that, or I don't have to carry that on. I don't have to be so emotionally invested into that. I can now balance that out with myself and then see the fruits of my labor. And then realize like in the things that I've faced, in the things that I've acknowledged and accepted, I'm excited for my harvest. I'm excited for my heart, and I get to live off that harvest, an abundant harvest. It's like, that's the thing about when you look at the feminine archetype and the energy, and then what I see, what the divine mother energy is that when you look at the distorted mother and how in her distortion or the dysfunctionality of people who are not willing to heal, they won't see the abundance. So when you think about poverty or survival, that was the old world. It didn't matter how much people had financially. I told y'all, they still were in the distortion and dysfunctionality, in their inability to think that to keep things away from other people, whether that be information, whether that be their birthright, whether that be through food or resources. The wheel always turned. The table always turned. And those who know that are in tune know that you give and you receive. I'm not finna get in them fucking people way or even the fact of what they were connected to. I'm here to transmute that shit. Or I'm here to just be like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of none of that. Because a lot of your contracts, a lot of things spiritually that people were connected to, and we just assume that look at shit on the surface, you don't know in the shadows what that shit came with that contract. And a lot of people are indebted to that shit. That's why I wouldn't immediately get like these transits with these initiations have a lot to do with, because Aries, for one, is independence. It's the initiator. It's childlike. It's fire. It's through transformation. Everyone is undergoing this shit. So in people's initiation, there are people being initiated into shit to where, depending on, like, that's why I wouldn't want to be a part of certain people or be connected to certain shit. I'm not going to be initiated in that shit. That's why people, through certain groups and certain shit, there's an initiation. And behind that initiation is intention. It's either an intention for you to prosper, to be abundant, to go in something balanced, harmonious, and grounded, in which you're going to see how ungrounded people are. What they built is so ungrounded. That's the energy of the old narrative of the old world. This shit is just showing y'all how ungrounded it is. So why would I stay alongside people that I know, if you ain't did a shadow work, if you ain't healed, I don't care what company, I don't care who's the CEO and so forth, it's the fucking energy that even is displayed in the corporation, whether there's sports, whether there's anything related to that. There's still, when you look at the initiation of when that shit was brought into the world, there was a spiritual thing behind that shit. The men who built certain corporations, sports, entertainment, industries, so forth, there was an initiation. There was energy behind that shit. There was an energy. There was a plot. There was a scheme. It's so interesting because the guy that I talked to, I was referencing the story about, because I want to be mindful of the shit. Basically, what is his name? Because I'm gonna say allegedly. Anywho, matter of fact, he said he worked for Nationwide, and he had a newspaper. In the newspaper, he said 100 years, and he was just talking about how he was a part of it. But then he started to see what he said, how he mentioned allegedly, like there was how he said it was allegedly, he said it was corrupted. So he was just like, I was like, ain't this some shit? Because it just gives me confirmation of the fact of y'all don't realize the whole old world as y'all knew it. Everything had a significance, whether it represented a distortion of the mother and the father. It don't matter how you twist and turn that shit and so forth. There is something connected to it regardless that had to do with manipulation, deception, corruption, and so forth. In that corruption has to be a cleansing. So when you look at your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and grandma, and so forth, they had to either navigate through free will to either be a part of something, to adapt, to go through, to walk in integrity, or to stay in the dark. So for a lot of y'all, even in people's inability to walk in integrity, they're naturally manipulative. Because when you're a part of something that is deceptive, that's corrupted, you too are. There's no other way to twist and turn that shit. We all went through that. When you look at your school systems, when you look at a whole bunch of other shit, I was sitting here walking the past elementary school, and I see the position, and I see how the drugs, I see how a lot of this stuff is so just, I was like, there's no protection. When you realize the distortion of what the mother represented, then you realize how unprotected people have been spiritually, and that plays out into their physical. So even if the fact of, through people assuming just because you live in a nice neighborhood, just because you got money, and you think that people with the spiritual eye or people that are in tune can't see your corruption, you're a part of it. You are the ones who kept it going. Who do you think you're fooling? So when I talk about the mother wound and the father wound personally with me, I recognize it on a grander scale. Those people are just as fucking corrupted. They're just as distorted. They actually think in their way of just like dressing up a certain way and wearing the finer clothes and da-da-da-da-da. You're still a part of this distortion. You're still distorted. You're still unhinged, as someone to call. You're still corrupted inside. You still have a self-righteous complex. You created this God complex. That's why some of them people that y'all see, they created a God complex. They started to say you can't see yourself as a reflection of what y'all call gods or God. Or there is more to it. There's levels, or there's more so just different aspects to that shit. If you're not able to see the interconnectedness and so forth of a lot of these things, I can see you. If I realize that you're out here parading yourself a certain way, what the fuck makes you think I want you to associate you with my daughter? Artists, certain people. You don't even want your kids or certain people listening to shit. But you will love to promote lust, or you will love to promote certain shit just so our daughters can live through that loop, to live like you. We're not here to do that. We're not doing that over here. This is a strict program. It's structured. It's actually for longevity. I was telling my bro that, I was like, bro, a Kevin Samuels message popped up, and he was talking about and this talks about the father wound actually. He was talking about how actually some men think having sex and having muscles and having money makes them a man. That shit has nothing to do. That's a part of the fucking distorted mother that has enabled the distortion of the father. That's the wounded masculinity that plays out. How people not, and then when you see women actually encourage that shit, and hear how they talk about themselves, hear how they brag about certain shit. What does all those bodies even mean? Girl, you a Jezebel. Homeboy, you a Jen, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Let's keep it real. That shit is in every industry. All of that shit is ran by certain spirits. Like, if you think to the depths of that shit is ran. Come on, bro. You think that I just assume that I don't gotta get biblical with this shit. It references all of that in so many books. The spiritual shit. That shit has collapsed. It's hilarious because it's like y'all actually think that you want your daughters to not even see the sacredness in protecting themselves and create life, to have boundaries beyond what you had. That's the thing about the lesson, in the fact of what you went through was not supposed to continue through your daughters. That's the protection of recognizing the distorted mother energy you were in, or your mother, so you can recognize that your daughters don't have to live through that. You don't have to, through your own fear, assume that they have to live through it too. No, they're not you. They may have attributes and carry certain things, but they're not you. And I told you, in not having guidance, I realized now that I was being guided by something greater, bigger. So that in my awareness, how it's a bridge for my son and then other young men, my nephew, all of these. Come on, that don't mean I can stop. What it is that the responsibility to me first is that that branch to the fruit that I produce, and then how that expands. So meaning, like, my son, that influence I have, like, he is to progress that shit. He was supposed to continue that, and it's in his name. It's who he is. And he would be confident in that shit. Why the fuck would I want my son and or daughter to be confident? I see these kids out here. I know what they're going through. I see it. How they dress, how they parade themselves. It's like an open invitation. And more so, it's like, you know what they've been exposed to. You know it. Telling y'all, man, I know very much well what a lot of these people that are high, that y'all assume that they're high ranking, For those who know to know, they're not. Y'all think high ranking is just because of their status, bro. I tell you, these folks about to go through it too. They about to go through it too. Imagine everything, their foundations being stripped from them. Because a lot of these transits, it's not just initiations, but what's the other word I can say? I just say the word comes to me that I was given was like a lot of people about to be dethroned from the wickedness or from the shit that they've been doing. The influence they had, they literally about to be dethroned. Like their foundations is literally finna be like this right here. And it's just so that they can see that the world has shifted and the world is shifting. And what they assume that they value, the world don't value no more. People don't value that no more. They actually want better. They want to live in peace and harmony or something. They actually do. And y'all got to realize that's people that come along. I was listening to somebody's song the other day, and I think I referenced, I was like, bro, you got a boy talking about, what's that song? You got a boy talking about 16. I'm trying to think when I was 16. What the fuck was I doing? For one, you got to realize what people were exposed to. Yeah, for some of us, you can be coming into what they call puberty or coming into yourself. But bro, when I started realizing like how many people were exposed to sex so young and how they were having sex so young, I was like, oh my God, what does that say? What does that say about us? And even the topic on how we present it and talk about it, because you can't depend on school to talk about that shit. If you think that from my lessons of what I went through with women that I won't encourage my son to have these talks with like the balance in like keeping yourself pure spiritually until it's like coming to alignment or till you are prepared, you'll know. Like you will know instead of being exposed because you didn't have the guidance. I realized like a lot of people in the industry, bro, some of them could have had parents there, but I see a pattern of either it's one parent there or nobody at all. And it's like the powers that used to be or certain things will come in operating through other people to lure them right into something. And y'all don't even realize how in the dark a lot of people are. That's why I know it's about the wound, like the woundedness of a lot of them. Everything that they talk about and put out there is literally just on the lower nature or like lower frequency. It's just like literally just about a certain thing. And I'm like, dang, I see the power in how, and it's not a good or bad thing. I just see the power in influence, like how powerful music. And even how the fact of how certain energies operate through them, but it's like they still have a responsibility to evolve past that. Think about the influence of certain artists or certain people who actually could change the world, or not even the world that they're in, because you got to think about it ain't just changing the world, it's the world that you live in. And what I realized is that a lot of them are not at peace. I'm telling you, bro, that's a specific artist I know that don't came to me. Those who know that know. And a lot of people do a lot of shit in the shadows to where they are so consumed. They are so consumed. That's why I told y'all for a lot of y'all are teachers, healers, shadow workers, whatever it is, to support these people too. Because they have inner childs. They're fighting with vices too. They too. Y'all just think that we just go through shit, bro. People are just going through shit. They just have the only difference that you see. They just have more money and they're just exposed to shit. They just live over here in this neighborhood or anything. does not mean that they are not subjected to the same shit that you are. I told y'all, man, I was telling people, I'm like, man, you can tell who don't have guidance because, or what they're being guided by, because it's like there's no protection for them. For real. When I think about even how people use security on a physical level, I'm like, what are you protecting though? I be thinking like things with people like that. If people really wanted to touch you, it ain't, those who know, it ain't got shit to do with the physical. It's a spiritual thing. And that's what really makes me think how low ranking, or how could I interpret this? I didn't even know I was gonna go into this. But how not just low ranking, but how much they'll protect in the material to give out this illusion of how important they are on a physical plane, but how unimportant they are spiritually. Because those who are in tune very much know, like, it's a spiritual thing before anything. So that's going to become very clear, like how you see a lot of them fade, because the balance that's been restored has a lot to do with a lot of things becoming more spiritual, seeing things more spiritually, in the balance in that, rather than, oh, that's such and such. Okay. Those who can see will very much know there's going to be a shift towards those people, knowing that the awareness around how the significance of it not being about an individual, but more so shift towards a collective. So a lot of this Pluto, Aquarius, and a lot of these initiations has a lot to do with the dethroning of certain things, and also the initiation spiritually of leaders or new leadership and so forth. Because I already said, I see the desperate attempts of people trying to, again, team up through desperation, come together, and it really shows like how much of their powers are depleting and how no longer they can stay in the dark. But again, I can see the spirits or just what they're consumed by, that they don't know anything else but to just do that. It's just like a child. They don't know any better. So when I look at some of these artists or people and so forth, sports and a lot of entertainment, whatever it is, they don't know any other better but to be consumed by what it is that they're doing. That's the immaturity or even the ignorance in them evolving. Phew. And that right there highlights the father and mother wound. Because in their ability, this talks about even the year of the fire horse, how the Aries energy is not just aggression. People think it's aggression. This is beyond that. It's transformation through fire. But one thing about fire is that there is forging of fire. So what came in my mind is like how they forge fire with, how you're making a sword. So a lot of us are going through that transformation. That initiation is like the forging of fire, like a sword. And sword can symbolize things that cut away. Things are being cut away, but the sword also symbolizes like that of the tongue. So what's in the mouth, what's in the heart will come out of the mouth. And so this is what you're going to see a lot of when it comes to people in the world, that they can be great singers through the throat chakra, but their heart is blocked. So a lot of stuff that they sing about, is it going to be pertaining to love? It's going to be pertaining to the old world narrative of romanticizing love or pain or stuff that comes from a more so of absent or abandonment aspect, because them singing about needing a person or certain stuff like that is more so coming from a place of we're shifting into holistic. So it's more so valuing things that more so of ourselves rather than the other person, or feeling like we need them. Now, being more in tune knows that people have and need them more so. That doesn't mean that they're not valuable or necessity. But again, that sword aspect comes through the fact of it's going to be very apparent how people use that sword. Because I know in the biblical text and so forth, it talks about how the sword is described as a tongue. And you can cut or you can like give life. So you got to think about how a lot of things are shifting to where people, they were not giving life through their words. And in that, you're going to see how through industry, artistry, and so forth, how there's going to become an sap. There's going to become an oversaturation of a regurgitation of this, like seeing them still plant seeds of the same thing. And we all know that a lot of stuff is getting played out, especially with a lot of things elevating or a lot of things shifting. When you look at a lot of music, it's still power, it's still an influence. It's more so how and who's behind it and what their intention is and how to reach people, especially when you look at how a lot of music was used to just reach people at a lower nature, especially like just sex. And if you think about it, people are going to do healing or, become more enlightened, then a lot of women are going to heal or realize like in their stepping in their power, they're going to rise from that lower nature because in realize the importance of progressing their lineage and doing the inner work and shadow work, they're going to shift towards people who pour into them to remind them that reciprocity. Because a lot of people that share their music, it's not about reciprocity at all. It's not about groundedness. So you're going to realize like a lot of these transits are going to reveal how ungrounded people really are and how they're depending on the material, money, and so forth, which again, there is a balance when you look at Taurus energy, to where there's a shift in, you're going to see the fear in people not being able, the uncomfortability to not be able to book a show, tour, or do certain things. Because again, Aries energy is again reference to when you come into the forging of fire, too much of anything will burn out. So you can't keep something in the fire too long. So when you forge something, notice how like people who are, what is it? Did they call them swordsmen? What do they call? It's something, I forgot the name. But they have to take it out of the fire and hammer it. It's a preparation process through that. So even when you forging stuff through fire, I saw a guy who knew this. So wow, how it comes back around full circle. He was making horseshoes, and a lot of things he had to apply fire to bend it or do a lot of things with the metal. So with that, it's not about doing too much of anything when it comes to. I forgot the guy name. I shared it on my previous channel, where he talked about the year of the fire horse, of how you're going to see companies who, and this represents people too. You're going to see people, they will burn themselves out because you will see this is that Taurus energy with Uranus and Taurus leaving out. And then what is the other one? Something's going into Taurus soon. How again, this reflects the duality of value, internal value that will shift for people. And in that internal value, you got to realize internal value represents everything we value, whether that's through energetically speaking, connected to money, people, what we value, basically core values. So when you're talking about a holistic approach, you're talking about the fact of what we value in ourselves and our people. So that would shift our whole perspective around community, environments, our internal world, and how we connect with the world. So our value will changes. So that would shift again with leadership, industry, music, and so forth. Where we give our focus to is going to be more so what we value. So now going back to again, the forging of fire with the guy in the talking about the fire horse, the year of the fire horse, is it's not about a place of burning yourself out, because you'll see a lot of people do this. And that's why you're going to see so many people, I told y'all before, desperate to just try to accumulate stuff more in the material, because again, through the distortion of how things have been operated on the physical plane, people just assume the hustle and bustle. And that's why you're going to see a lot of people burn themselves out in industries, corporation, and so forth. This is a representation of the shift of power, the shift of currency, the last being made first. This is a representation of also the wounded masculinity that have played out through women and men. That again, through the distortion of the mother, or the wounded femininity, that has enabled people to be so hustle, over aggressive, display certain things that at a time we value but no longer value. That makes sense. So a lot of these shifts has a lot to do with the bigger picture collectively. So that fortune of fire, again, even with doing the metal work, you have to put that shit in water and steam comes up. So I've seen that where you have to cool it off. So that talks about the importance of not burning yourself out, because Aries also is, shout out to Yumi Genevieve, I hope I say her name right. Where she talks about even a lot of this reflects to inflammation in the body, the respiratory system, I want to say, but Aries rules the head. So a lot of things around mental health, which again, mental health goes back to value. What we value. Do we value peace or harmony in our minds? Do we value a lot of things that brings us peace? Being around environments like that. Agriculture. So it's our approach. Again, Aries is the initiation. So all of these people that you seeing like leading up until I forgot. Yeah, these transits that that has happened already in Aries. Saturn is going to again represents the rings, like the cycles. So right now, whatever you're putting in, planting seeds. Look at the table mat. It's a sunflower. Whatever you're putting in, whether now, years, months, and so forth, come full circle. So for one, look at what you value right now. Look at what you value. And so it makes sense to, like, again, that fortune of fire is so significant because it's initiation through fire. And it's going to show you how people can't hide. So when you see the duality of the accumulation of like people on edge, intensity, and like when you say violence, it's just the energy playing out internally through people for what they have held on to. For what they know, and it don't even surprise me the shit that people gonna get involved in. I realize, like, in doing the inner work and through the uncomfortability of things, like again, where I was impulsive, I was reactive and so forth. But also another transit of Jupiter in Cancer is very significant because it leads up to how the expansion of Cancer ruling the home, the matriarchal, the mother energy, emotion, the emotional bodies. So that Jupiter aspect is expanding all of that, but it's more so accumulating, doing the healing in the emotional body to now direct our energy to expand to what we want to expand on from what Cancer rules, which is a mirror, because Cancer is the mother, and the mirror aspect is the reflection, which is the water, which is, you know, when you think about who and what is a mirror of that, a reflection of that. So the reflection of that, when you look at your children, when you look at a lot of you Cancer placements or people who hold that, whether progress chart or so forth, a lot of this is significant to where what are you ignoring that is coming up for you to acknowledge, to navigate through, to journal about, to recreate and reinvent. Aries energy to initiate. What is this initiation? Because emotions are here to initiate you. They're a gateway. They're a portal to something greater than you, that around the home. It's initiation maybe to you to relocate to your home life, to expand like what that is. to create more emotional state. That's something that was, I have a Jupiter in Cancer. I think it's Western astrology, but this shit has been, whew. I know what I'm going to live into, and I know like a lot of it's centered around emotional security. One of my affirmations I have to tell myself is I'm held, I'm loved, because I realized the abandonment issues at that time with my mom, or the things that the unavailability and so forth, was an initiation now. A part of my daughter and her connection to, like, I think she has a Cancer moon, and that being a bridge to me to what I no longer can ignore. So that mother wound. And then, come on, we getting this out. Shit. Let me clear. I know I gotta get this shit out. What the fuck? I went from coughing to hiccups out of just nowhere. I ain't ate. I'm gonna drink some tea. So you have to see what that reflects to you right now. Wherever your environment is, these trends are very significant. What are you initiating? Are you initiating the same fucking loop? And that's the thing about the shadow work. I know what's to come from me. I know the expansion. I even know how to navigate through imposter syndrome. I know what I'm worthy of, because doing the inner work, that goes back to self-worth. A lot of people right now, when it comes to the fact of how you're going to start seeing, once your spiritual eye or start to become more enlightened, or, become more online and in tune, a lot of you women are going to see celebrities or certain people. You're going to see what they value. Think about when you're doing the healing work, like I reference my journey, you're going to actually see the spirits or what they're connected to, what they haven't navigated through. That's going to change your whole fucking idea and perspective of them. Once y'all start to realize, like, this how deep it goes. Once y'all start to realize, like, as you do the healing and you have a daughter, and then you see how these women gravitate towards these certain people or in this world and so forth, man, you'll start to realize, what the fuck are they gravitating towards? If it ain't just physical and it's spiritual, what is they gravitating towards? What is that person glamoring to lure them in? For one, what if their message isn't something holistic or authentic or integrity? What are they glamming? What are they doing? If y'all think that people aren't just as fucking spiritual and shit that's behind them to purposely keep you in a loop of what? Dysfunctionality, confusion, deception. That's just like they never come back the same. This goes back to what I was trying to finish earlier. You got some of these artists I told y'all, like, how long is it? Months ago. It don't matter. Video I was talking about, again, the approach, the initiation. Like, a lot of people are going through initiation or going through the same fucking loop. They're going to go through the same suffering. But a lot of them, y'all don't realize a lot of that stuff, them being exposed young, talking about being 16, 15, or whatever it is, they were so young. Bro, once you start to see that shit on a deeper level, how the divine is showing this can be your child. Maybe not of the industry aspect, but of the fact of this shit is around you. This shit is connected to you in some way, somehow. Are you in tune enough to realize through your own protection of your inner child and your connection that your children can be protected as well? There's no fucking way that I would ever want some of these people around, not even me. I see you. It's no way. It's no way. Some of y'all need more than spiritual baths. There are people who help some of these people who don't realize, like, they're no different than y'all. Y'all just been given this false illusion. They're no different than y'all. They lay down. I told my homeboy the other day, that's another thing I wanted to finish off. You got to realize we were introduced to culture, to introduced to shit, to just think that this is what it is to be a man. How the fuck that people in certain industries and so forth are not doing the same thing? If they influencing us that this is what it is to be a man, what the fuck? I saw another artist sitting here talking about now they got this nigga trying to talk about some inspirational shit. I look at the energy and the character. I look at the character. Nigga, you were talking about all this trap shit, all this other stuff, and you think that I'm just going to overlook that? Y'all don't influence the youth to go through this shit and you got paid from it. You think I'm gonna overlook that, G? Who the fuck? Nigga, that's your character. That's your character in this world. You're deceptive. You're deceptive, G. Fuck out of here with that. I don't care who you is. I see y'all and y'all know it. Y'all motherfuckers trembling. Y'all trembling. And the divine knows y'all shook right now. Cause ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. Scared to death, scared to look. You shook. That's bruh. Ain't no such thing as halfway. You either that or not at all. And even if you that, come on, man. Y'all bet, bro, the veil is lifted. This is like me overlooking the fact of what the fuck my mama, my daddy don't do. Nigga, that's your character. If you ain't trying to do no shadow work, if you ain't trying to navigate through nothing, if you ain't even think that you gotta apologize to yourself for what you didn't know, and then go hash that shit out with the people who you know had an influence on your life, boy, get the fuck out of here. That's just like these characters y'all see. Get the fuck out of here. Man, these people know what they doing. They know. And once you start to come into them, they know you know. So don't even think you finna come over here on some bandwagon shit. Don't jump ship. Because I told y'all know. Bitch, you got karma in the face. Don't come over here running think you finna run over here and think you finna be saved. Y'all be talking about don't save her. Don't save him. That's the same thing go for me. I had to go through this shit. Nobody can save me through my shit. Leave people where they at. Y'all about to see it. They already left behind. I told you these initiations finna initiate people right through the same shit. Y'all gotta realize these motherfuckers don't want to live in peace and harmony or balance or prosperous and so forth. Man, the shit that was shown to me in one of my visions, I can't share this one. Y'all don't even, man, research why the flag hangs down this way. Research that shit. Bro, in the spiritual realm, this is a fucking, what they call a third world country. In the spiritual realm, you think they made a move, the Matrix for that shit for no reason? When he said, Neo, this is what your world really look like, G? This is what your world really look like, G? That means in other people's internal world, the shit that they hold on to, y'all don't realize like what they represent and what's attached to them spiritually is affecting everything around you. Y'all just see this shit as glitz and glam. Boy, what? That shit is a cover up, boy. Boy, you... The word undercover keep coming to you. Bitch, y'all can't even hide no more, boy. I came across a video of Falling, like that movie Falling. Bro, what? They is trembling. I know motherfucker watch this shit. I just hope he don't say my name. Y'all ever had a motherfucker like that? But this ain't, I don't got a black man up, but you can't, bro. I say things and people, you gotta realize energy don't lie. I say things, it's just like you know how you been around, you know how you can be around somebody and they know you know some shit and they gotta move accordingly. I don't want to piss him off. I'm finna go. I don't want to, bro, there's people in my life right now like that. Just like it's some things that's why when you do the inner work, you realize how much it's more peaceful it is and more just a way to just to go about your journey. Even if you know that I know some shit, that's something you gotta face. I don't gotta deal with that. That's you. I leave that to you. I don't gotta bring it to your attention. Because if I gotta bring it to your attention, I know it's already been brought to your attention in a whole nother space, in a whole nother world or whatever, spiritually. I know it's been brought to you. Sometimes, you know how someone hears something for the first time, but, you know, someone keep repeating something to you, you be like, man, you know what? Eventually that shit will click to where you know it's something you got to do. Because that's where the discipline comes in. When you ready to shift and change, you got to realize like a lot of this shit finna have people giving up everything. Because once you go initiation through whether it's something spiritually or what you know, people say they get initiated. Oh, that's another thing too. Boy, the spiritual community, boy. A lot of y'all finna, I don't know why I gotta say this, When you think about the distortion of the mother, a lot of y'all about to see a lot of these spiritual leaders too that have initiated y'all shit into more darker shit. And that ain't no more good or bad. I mean, to keep your ass in the dark. Knowing how powerful you were to progress your lineage past that shit. How to operate it. Because again, they've been navigating through shit just to keep it on the... Man, what? What? Time's a wasted. Don't you take your time. And it's wild because people are they literally came here in a deceptive way, in a trickster aspect. It's so hilarious how they supposed to present a certain way. It's funny. Like a lot of this shit is funny to me because it's like, oh, you're a fucking trickster. It's just like if you going to pet a damn dog. But those who know, they're signs. They're signs. Sly fox. That's a fox too. Like, he, motherfucker bite you. Yeah. I'm telling you, bro. It's just like a dog. Those who know, you see a dog, that motherfucking, them hairs go up on that back or that tail go straight. It's things you start to learn. You're like, okay, motherfucker, you've been trying to bite me, huh? You don't gotta growl all the time. Think about people. That's the thing about discernment. They don't have to growl. They can show you their teeth all the time until they bite your ass. So a lot of you have made it through a lot of things to where there ain't no looking back. You glance and keep going. Rearview mirror on your ass and moving forward. So, yeah, I don't went far, boy. I don't even know what the title is. But, hey. What Brooklyn at? What Brooklyn at? What? Y'all don't even realize a lot of... When I wear this, I'm the star. It's very significant because I wore another jersey and I picked up on Biggie. And I realized, like, a lot of people that just assumed that a lot of people, the way they went out, they knew some shit. They knew something was about to come. But at the same time, they didn't realize how much they got into something before they realized like what they had got spiritually contracted to or binded to where it's not sometimes that they fear getting out of it, but it's more so they accepted their fate of knowing like they just accepted whatever was going to come with it. So with that, I seen something with Biggie, but that was a part of what y'all see play out with a certain character. That was divine justice. I just wanted to say that because one of the jerseys I got was him, like he wore in Juicy, I believe. And it had Smalls on the back. And I was like, wow, what the fuck is... But I been had something to him, like a vision. But he was more in this vibrant place to where it was just justice around that playing out physically. So let me tell you, energy always come back around. So for a lot of you, that's things that could have happened in your lineage years or generations ago that divine justice or judgment plays out now through you. So yeah, peace and bliss and shalom.